Right, so the copy reads, description, experience the enchantment of a crackling bonfire without the hassle. The Crackle portable bonfire, packaged in a portable aluminium tin with 4 coals infused with candle wax and durable wicks, is your ticket to creating warm and memorable outdoor gatherings. Whether you're with family, friends, or enjoying a moment of solitude, our bonfire solution is designed to make your outdoor experience unforgettable. And that, Glenn, is an advert for a candle.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Is it real?
It is. So I'm going to tell you the story behind this. So we, as you know, Glenn, and some of our viewers will know, I'm a big camping fan. We bought a camper van last year, so we go camping a lot. And we've been looking at a way of having a fire pit in the boot, not starting a fire in the boot, but like having a portable fire pit so that when we go camping, we can have a fire because the kids love it. And lots of campsites do it, but it often costs like £30, which I know everything in the world is a rip-off now, but £30 for a fire pit for one night is ridiculous. So we were looking at like portable stuff. And so Gemma found this thing. It's called the Crackle Bonfire. A crackle is spelled C-R-A-K-L. You can go to crackle.co.uk. Now, we looked at it and, well, do you know what? We won't bring it up on screen, but I'll show you here. Like, it looks like that. Okay, so it's kind of a picture that you can't quite see the scale of. Okay, that's interesting. And you read the copy, and experience the enchantment of a crackling bonfire. It's a bonfire solution. It's only later that you realize it's about this big.
You're showing the circumference of your finger and thumb being held together.
Yeah, you know, the A-OK sign.
Yeah.
Or the other one, the one you do in the playground when you're a kid. So it's a candle, right? It's just a candle. I mean, and the clue is the size of a candle. The clue is right there in the description, packaged in a portable aluminium tin with 4 coals infused with candle wax. And durable wicks also in a candle.
I mean, so there's a lot to unpack. In my typical sense, we were speaking to some one of our academy students the other day, and I realized I am bad at reading copy aloud because I read, as soon as I get stuck on a word, my brain goes do and starts like asking questions and what have you, and that's how I kind of write generally. But when you started reading that out, I think in the first 4 to 5 words, I was gone. Like, what? I could not understand. It seemed contradictory. It seemed, before you've even got to the actual product, illegal selling of what is a tiny.
Not illegal, just to be clear.
Yes, apologies to Crackle, who were slandered or libelled, or both. But it just seemed. It seemed like it was just a match. I thought you'd not told me what you were going to read out. I thought you were going to say at the end of that it was an AI generated piece of copy. That's where I thought was like, all right, he's going to say this is AI, because it just sounds like, it sounds even more like, less like, when we say something sounds like copy, this just sounds like, it sounds like a spreadsheet of copy words put together.
Well, that may well be, but the reason I read it out is because I thought we could talk about the power of positioning. And I just want to make 100% clear, it's not illegal. Neither did Glenn slander or libel you. He doesn't know what those words mean. He's a wordsmith who has a very limited grasp.
I just want to be in Hislop. I want to be in
Hislop. It's great. You can see this as brilliant positioning, because that is a candle that has been positioned as a bonfire solution. And as a result of that, you could sell it for £20, a price you would never pay for a candle. Now, whether that's right or wrong, let's just park that issue. I thought it was great because we looked at it. Gemma sent it to me. She said, this looks really interesting. And I looked at it and said, yeah, it does. And then I sort of started scrolling and looking around and said, Gemma, I think it's a candle. I think it's just a candle. It's not a bonfire. It's a candle. But there's a sort of genius to that in the sense that if you can change your positioning and the way you describe your product, you can unlock different levels of value in the market. So I'll give you an example. I'll get us back onto safe territory. We've worked in the publishing industry for a long time. Okay. We both once worked for a magazine and newsletter publishing business. And the magazine was limited in price because there is a limit to how much somebody will pay for a magazine. If you say each issue, each week costs £50, no, not spending £50 on a magazine. It does not matter how valuable that magazine is. We think maximum, well, I would think like less than a fiver, but in today's rip-off world, it's probably £10. I don't know. A newsletter, way harder to sell, way harder to explain, but therefore a much bigger range of prices you can charge because it's more about what's inside the newsletter and how you position that newsletter. So it opens up new avenues of opportunity. I had an experience just recently. Somebody came to me and said, I want to do a memoir. I want to write. I actually haven't told you about this project, Glenn. It's one of these weird things that I find myself involved in. It's nothing to do with finance. I want to write a memoir about my time in business. And so we talked about it for a while. And we talked about, what we would charge for the memoir and stuff. I said, you're never going to charge £150 for a book. No, people won't pay it because they're anchored to a certain price in their mind. So we've changed it to guys, the same information, same story. We're going to change the positioning, change how we talk about the product. And I think that will open up new things. We could charge £50, we could charge £5, we could charge £500, depending on the way that the copy works around it. I actually thought all of this is a really interesting way in. It's a little bit connected to marketing, but it's really about how we talk about the products that we sell. That positioning can change everything, and it doesn't actually have to change the product's core offering itself. It's just how we talk about it. I thought it was fascinating. We almost spent £20 on a candle, which, unless it's an advent one, is a rip-off.
You didn't buy it in the end?
No, I said we may as well. We went from one rip-off to another. So I'm not spending £30 for one night of a fire pit, nor am I going to spend £20 on a candle. We're talking about fire. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it is. It immediately makes me think close to home, like my partner Ruth does sells ceramics. Now they're handmade ceramics, but she makes plates now more so. But when she was previously made a lot of mugs and still does. But people's perception of a mug, you will pay not a lot of money for a mug because you can go and get a million mugs outside, outside. Mug sellers outside.
Answer the door. There's a mug seller at the door again.
£2. But yeah, so you can't say. Most people will look at it and go, "Why is a mug £50? Like, that's insane." However, if it's a piece of art and you reposition it and it's a one-off, all the time and like love and energy and thought that's gone into that, that's worth that. But this happens all of the time. It's really interesting to me at markets is where I see it a lot, because people will go, there's often like a donut seller or something, like one of these fancy donuts where it's got like a bueno like shoved in it or whatever, this modern kind of just diabetes nightmare kind of thing. But they're like £10 for a donut. And someone will go, oh yeah, I'll go and buy £10 for that donut. But then they'll like bulk at £10 for a hair clip or something that's been finely made out of clay and what have you and painted on and is a wonderful thing. And every time I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, you've just spent £10 on some sugar, like, but you're bulking at the price of that. And it's really interesting to see how people's minds work in that respect. And as you say, when it comes back to the copy and how you're positioning things, how you're selling them, it's important to actually spend some time to think about that, probably before you write. I know we're adding all these things that you have to think about before you actually write a word of copy. And I don't think it's just a marketing thing, as you say. I think it is about, if you take something like the Fix Accelerator, where we're selling it for £10 a month. Like, we knew that if we make it sound much bigger and much more than that, which it is, but if we describe it that way and then undercut with that cheap perception of price, that does a whole different thing. We were always taught like the step discounts and what have you, and you anchor your price to something big and then come in with something small. Understanding that way before you go in helps, I find, set the tone early on. If you think, oh, I'll deal with that when I get to the offer, which I think is what a lot of people will do, they'll be like, all right, that's just all down the road, like that's all in the offer. I don't think that's, I think you write to that price. Whereas if you think about positioning before and go, all right, okay, I want to be selling something for this amount of money, you talk in a different way. You express yourself in a different way. Something different will come out in your writing. So it's something that I do think you need to think about before you start writing copy.
I'll give you an example. Because I think the most obvious mistake people make here is they take the obvious road. So how many things do people sell where there's a report or a webinar or whatever, whatever the product delivery mechanism might be? If you just pick the obvious term, the one that's out there in the market, people have a pre-existing sort of value matrix. Christ, what am I doing? Glenn, don't worry, I'm only halfway through a sentence. It's fine. I'm going to put it around. Absolute professional. It's going to be fine. Don't worry, everyone.
Just
don't
check the value matrix.
We're in the value matrix, but don't worry. Okay, if it's a report, I probably think of the word free report first. If it's a webinar, I expect to be able to attend for free. Okay, that's fine if that's what you want. But if you're going to charge money or you want a different positioning, you might want to think about different terms. So there are two routes available to you. So you can pick another value matrix. There's now two.
How many value matrices has the guy got?
We've got a couple of matri open. No, I jest. Okay, so for instance, the candle, they'd said, let's call it a bonfire, because a bonfire has a different scale to a candle. Mm-hmm. Similarly, if we were talking about, say, a webinar, we might say, what if we called it a conference call, private Zoom call, members only Q&A? Okay, those all have different value things. They're not, so I wasn't going up, I was just riffing. Yeah. So an Ask Me Anything is probably like a webinar. I expect that to be free. It comes from a place where, anyone can come along and ask me anything. A conference call, that's different. That might well be private and positioned in a different way. I might have a different value proposition attached to that. So you can go down that route. So you can look at what already exists that's similar, that has a different value attached to it. Or you can invent a new thing. So, like, for instance, right?
I'm just thinking of the Fix Fest. Sorry, not the Fix Fest. The Fix Rally.
It's true, right? Yeah. Fix Fest. I mean, it's not a conference, but it's conference adjacent. We said, okay, there aren't any very, very good conferences of copyright in Europe that we can see that people like. So let's do something that's better and different to what there is existing already. But let's not call it a conference. That's crap. I want to make it a festival. That sounds cool. It's close to what I wanted to do. It has 2 F's in it. So all of a sudden it's something slightly different. And that naming convention shaped the product. Mm-hmm. To the extent that when we were looking around venues, we said, we can't do this place. It's far too corporate. This is a conference venue. I don't want that. I want to do something else. So as soon as we saw the church, sorry, for people who don't know, it's in the crypt of a church. It's not. Mm-hmm. But we actually looked round. We looked around the actual church, St. James's Church in Clerkenwell, and while we were there, Glenn, I don't know, I thought I froze it. While we were there, we were looking around. That was when it was like, hey, we got to have a choir. We can't do it here. We don't have a choir, so it shaped the product. Sorry, I'm going down a tangent. You can use an existing phrase, or you can make something new up. So, like, I don't know, if you're selling coffee, I mean, the flat white didn't exist 20 years ago. Whoever came up with it invented a new thing that has a new value attached to it.
Someone this morning? Yeah, wherever I got a coffee from this morning, guy behind me just came up and said, oh, can I have a hipster flat white? I thought, oh wow, we've gone, like we're in a new world.
You might be able to say, well, a hipster flat white costs £6, not £4.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah,
I
totally.
paid £4.50 for a latte the other day, and I was always sick as a result because I thought, Jesus Christ, the world is such a rip-off. Well,
Grumpy Old Men, the copywriters edition.
No, it's not Grumpy Old Men. It's Grumpy Marketers, because it's our job as copywriters to make people feel like they're getting great value. Actually, it's more than that. It's to make sure they get great value, especially as business owners. But that's another tangent. When you get to name something for yourself, you get to own it. This isn't a latte, it's a flat white. I'm imagining that I'm the person that came up with that. If you can name something fresh and say nobody else does this, then all of a sudden you unlock, almost not in the realm of coffee, but in lots of products, you could unlock huge value changes. So if you can get from a report to a community, to a forum, to a live trading floor, those could all involve largely the same fulfillment, but one might cost £100 and one you might be able to charge £10,000. I'm not kidding. That could be the difference in positioning. So it's such an important part, and it's something that almost nobody thinks about, I think.
This is all the really long way around for you to launch the Fix Ziggurat, which I don't even know what that is, but it's going to be a brilliant product. Yeah.
I'll give you an example of this. There's I don't know what the product is, but it follows me around on YouTube sometimes, where I think it's to do with marketing ideas, but the format is playing cards. These are playing cards.
Yeah. I see a lot of those.
It looks a cool advert, so I'm not criticizing it, but I would say I do not perceive a playing card to be a high ticket item. I just don't. I perceive it as a low rating. Now that could be on purpose, so I'm definitely not criticizing. But it's going to be the most expensive pack of cards you've ever bought, right? So I don't know quite what I would call it, but being cognizant of those things, that I'm anchored to a certain value matrix.
Which one are you anchored to? That's what I want to know.
It's there in my mind, and we want to consciously either work with that or react against it. We don't want to just be there by accident. Do you know what I mean? Like, even menus is a great example of this. Like, what is the difference between a panini and a sandwich, really? But yet one has one value and one has another. So that's price rhetoric. That's positioning. I mean, I know there's a little bit of difference, but think about that when you're positioning your product. Think about that when you decide, what if I talked about my product like it was called something else? What if I talked about this like it was a community rather than a report? What would that do? How would that change how I'd write it? Not only will it change the positioning, it might imply a different type of copy and a different style. And that can be a good route into the sort of creative aspects of what we do.
Especially in, as you were speaking, then I started thinking about like copywriters marketing themselves as well, which so many do, as well as giving you a different opportunity to price differently and charge more, essentially, is what we're kind of saying. It also gives you the free bonus of giving you another edge, another point of difference, because it's like, oh, right, that person does that. It's like even though everybody's doing that same course, but you're doing the Ziggurat course, like, or the whatever the different thing is, that's like, oh, right, they do that. Like, that's interesting. So it gives you that point of difference that you might otherwise be lacking, because a lot of things are similar.
I'll give you a great example, right? I can't remember who this is. I can't remember the name. But I saw something on LinkedIn the other day that the description as a copywriter said something like, I take blogs and essays and emails off the hands of busy CEOs, whatever. I think, I steal. I just take things off your hands. No. And I thought, that's interesting. That is interesting. And it's better than just saying I'm a copywriter, for sure. But the very phrasing of it is like, I take the crap you don't want to do off your plate. Is that a high value proposition or a low value proposition? I'd argue it's low value in its very essence, in the construction of the sentence. I'll take it off your hands. Now that's fine. Maybe if you're starting out, or that's where you want to be. It's definitely not critical, but you can't say, I'll take that off your hands, mate. And then be like, by the way, my rate's £2,000 a day. That's what I charge to take stuff off your hands. because that's not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting it to be like a time-saving device. Like, so you're now locked into a different sort of proposition. So again, that's not a criticism at all. You see it all the time, but you've got to think about that. If you get your
This is a really valid thought exercise for a copywriter to think about, because you see this all of the time. And, you know, I always like, if some AI mashed all of the episodes together, the amount of times we talk about this, but I think copywriters generally do themselves a disservice and undersell ourselves predominantly, if that's the kind of the mean of the market. And it is in that mindset of like, oh no, I'll do that for you, I'll just do that. And it's the word just and all that. I'll just do the word. And you actually, you listener, we as copywriters make it, we're just the words. We'll just do that for you. We'll take that away. And I think that general vibe, that general, the way we present ourselves like that causes so many people causes the average day rate to be so low, causes people to balk when they like hear about like the money you can make doing direct response and all that kind of stuff. It's because of that exact thing that you're talking about. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, and there are advantages to providing a solution to busy people, but how you position that, you can still do that in a way that presents itself as a more high ticket item. It's just something to be aware of, I think.
I'll give you another example. How many times, these are non-specific examples, I'm just going to make them up, but I'm sure they're real because I've seen enough. How many times do you see a copywriter describe themselves as a word nerd, or I do the words, or I love words, or language obsessed this? Okay, fine. The problem is the words aren't worth that much, okay? People, especially to non-writers, the people who pay you, they are non-writers. They don't value the words. What do we really sell? We accelerate the progress of your business. We make you look better and sharper than your competitors. We bring results.
Without being silly, the words are free. Like they're just like it's like
they're
available to anybody.
If you build houses for people, you don't say, I just bloody love bricks. It's like, well, no, I want a house. I expect you to make it of something. Just, you know, when you say, okay, I'm a copywriter, they're not going to say, I wonder how they're going to construct these results. It's going to be words and pictures, all right? It's obvious. Like, that's fine, but that's not the most valuable part of what we do. We might bring clarity. We might bring edge. We might bring cut through. We accelerate your results. I would say that's ultimately, you know, the difference between a business with bad copywriting and good copywriting is probably about 10 years. You know, you could be a great business with bad copywriting and it could take 10 years to be successful, or you could be a good business with good copywriting and it could be successful in a year. So at what point were the words important there? It's the result that matters, right? So I'm not saying that's the only way of doing it. And I get that there's a market for the words, but you are positioning yourself in such a way that is going to make it almost impossible to charge a lot, because how much are the words really worth? We want to be positioned really, and by we, I mean me and you, Glenn, but if you've been around a while and you want to achieve those higher levels of value, you need to position yourself differently. You can't say it's about the words. Just as a designer, are they really going to say, you know, why are they called art directors? You know, they're not just like the picture people. Those are designers, right? There's a massive pay scale between those two roles. Positioning, it's just positioning. They're largely the same skill sets, or one evolves out of the other. So, yeah. So this has become passionate.
A passionate rant. I'm aware because I'm in a hotel room in London as we're recording this. And for those who might be watching on YouTube, there is a terrible piece of, and I apologize to the artist, although it's probably AI. There's a terrible piece of art on the wall here, and that is but that's a piece of art, but that's worth nothing. Like, it's literally worth nothing, that thing behind me. They are in every room in this hotel, I should think, and it's just the generated image. Yet if you put a Picasso on that wall and all of then the positioning changes completely. I would be arrested if I walked out with that painting, and I'm too aware that representation has been staring at me as a positioning exercise.
Can I just tell you, and for people who are just listening to the audio version, this won't make a lot of sense. It looks like someone's put a coffee mug down on a dirty napkin.
Yeah.
Anyway, Glenn, once you mention Picasso, there's a little alarm that goes off just behind my computer. There's time to wrap the episode up. But the 2 takeaways from this episode are: think about how you position the product that you're selling, and think about how you position your services. Make sure your positioning relates to the kind of value you're trying to create around what it is you're selling, whether that's you or someone else. Make that decision consciously. All options are fine, so long as you chose it on purpose. Don't do something by default because other people did it because they probably didn't think about it as much as you. So that would be the takeaway. Go away and think about that.
If I was a more intelligent man, I'd do this coherently, but it is the Picasso story that he's outside a cafe and he draws a little picture of a bird on the napkin and says, "There you go, that's £10,000, please." And they go, "It only took you a second." He goes, "No, it took me 40 years to learn how to draw like that." And that is what we're really talking about. That is the parable to keep in mind.
The parable of Picasso.
The parable of Picasso. Eventually, we will just broadcast parables. That's what the fix will become.
Well, you've been pushing to wear robes during the recording of the fix for a long time, and I've always held off. One day I'll let you.
One day, under the screen, out of sight. The robes are encroaching.
Right. You can. I'm just going to cut you off there. Right. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Go and buy yourself a £20 candle and call it a bonfire if you want. But if you're not going to do that, go and check out the positioning on your next piece of copy. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Au revoir.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.